Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the World of Sasquatch. Today's episode is recorded or being recorded on 3/10/24. This is actually very interesting today. There's a little slightly variety of topic there that they want us to talk about. Before I go into that, though, we can start with the loved ones.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved one, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda to be able to have this conversation today in a way that is open and free. We ask for that of malevolence or mischievous beings to be kind of swept away at this moment, to allow for the free conversation to be had and to allow for you to listen to this freely and then take in the information and decide what you find interesting and to decide what you freely wish to let go. So with that and with great blessings to all of you, we say so be it.
So, yeah. Okay, yeah, we were actually called to go out to Sandbridge not too long ago, and there were some photos taken out there. I have not had a chance to go through them, but the reason for this is Vitos. You've heard him talk on GIC a couple of times, you've heard him talk on the lifting a couple of times, and you've heard him talk on here several times. So that one of his areas that he calls home is part of Sandbridge, and he migrates over to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Quite a bit, actually, depending on the time of year, but mainly he's in Sandbridge. And there is this little park that's over there that we parked by to take pictures, and you just randomly do it. The reason for this is you may have noticed on the GIC merch store that I've taken down several Sasquatch related materials, except for the picture of Fuma, the real one. And the reason being is they do not like AI, at least some of them, they don't like AI depictions of themselves. It just depends on the individual, too. Uh, but the group in this area came to a consensus that they didn't want, it was like kind of like a mean average vote kind of thing, where they did not want AI depictions of themselves being put out. They wanted real photos of themselves. It's more of a bridge building communication type of thing. So what I did was I said, okay, cool. We'll go out to Sandbridge and see if he'll appear. The one couple of photos I did see, you could see Vitos's face, but it wasn't enough of I could tell what I was looking at, but it wasn't enough to actually have like a print done, like with Fuma's definitive silhouette. So this is why they wanted us to do that, and then Vitos can go more into it as he channels. But yeah, and I can feel them building up out here. I can feel the pressure on my head here. And they also wanted to go. I noticed some synchronicities with tree structures, upside down trees, things of that nature that I've experienced in my life with forest people. X's. I will actually go aside from the AI discussion. There are two bits of context I'll put in for the other two parts of the discussion here. Um, Upside down trees. You see this the Sasquatch markers are marking a territory. At least that's what I believe. Anyway, and X's are marking a boundary line, and they're also showing territories with bent trees. I have experience with at least two of those three. Um, my mother and Laverne and I were going down the highway in Nebraska, and we saw four upside down trees along a fence line along the highway. And we saw literally they were fresh because the roots were up in the air. There was no reason for a construction worker to have done that. They would have just ripped them down and kept them down if they were clearing brush out. They were literally up against the fence and they were marking like a boundary line. And that was that we knew forest people were responsible there in Nebraska. Some people say they're not there. There's not enough forest areas, but they're quantum folks. They can go through different frequencies. I saw one in the Links at Lincoln Fletcher Street apartment complex pop up out of the ground, and I could literally see his hair and everything. So yeah, they come right up beside you and you don't know. And even people that are looking for them hear the whoops and they're right next to them and they don't see them. So the next one would be the X's. I have another experience with this in outside of Independence, Indiana. I was probably 7, 8 years old and walked into a wooded area. I had this feeling I was supposed to walk into this nearby wooded area. My father didn't know that I'd done this until I told him not that long ago. And there was a gigantic X there, and I knew that it was important because you could see it had been woven together. This was definitely a boundary line. This is like a stop sign would be for us. Stop, turn around, or a warning sign, essentially. At least that's what my observations. And to confirm all this, when we went out to Sandbridge before with Vitos for the AI discussion as well, he shows up as a yellow butterfly, this kind of yellow right here, and he shows up and to confirm this, when I get back to the house, my mother saw a yellow butterfly. I saw one outside too. This was him confirming that that was legitimately himself, talking to us and interacting with us out there in Sandbridge. So I will, let's see here.
And the reason that the one thing that Chris left out is that it's not butterfly season.
No, it's cold out.
It's cold out. So it was very interesting, you know what I mean, to see completely something you wouldn't expect at all right now in this area.
And I also, again, a day or two after, I saw a small yellow butterfly in the front. It was still too cold and it's very windy out. It's just like it is today. It was that day too. And the butterfly was having no issue flying through that. You would have thought it would be whipped around. And nope, it was having no issue flying from one end of the front yard to the hedge. The other one was in the back, and the one my mother saw was in the front by the other window towards the garage, flying by. It's too cold for bugs. I mean, if it gets a little warm, you might see some in a lethargic state, but out there like flies or something. I saw it not too long ago. But it was way too cold. It was in like the low 40s, and it had no trouble flying. It was windy and it's damp, so and it's wet. So no, there is no way that would have been there. So, Joanna, I don't know if you have anything else to add before.
No, I think it's an interesting conversation today to try and add more depth to the discussion of the Sasquatch people. Again, we've tried to say before, and I have to be honest, I'm a little unsure of what older episodes that Chris is showing or not showing, you know, but you know, just some of the basics that just like you look at humanity and you don't feel that we're all on the same wavelength, like certain parts of the Middle East you may think is more middle-aged and you know, people's abilities and mindsets seem to be different. It is the same within that community as well.
Different people, different opinions, and they just came to a vote consensus on the AI.
And it's important to know that because it's also different abilities, different skill sets, and those things are important because as we are getting closer and closer to the frequency of being able to see this a part of our normal daily lives, it is a little bit of you do have to beware because you don't know, again, just like in humans, you don't know exactly what you're dealing with. So don't lump them all into the same category. It is one term that's used to utilize within a multitude of different people. I shouldn't say people, they're different beings and different cultures and different groups within them. It's no different. And you just have to use your discernment whether something is safe or whether you should actually walk away. So don't lump everything into the same basket. If you've had an experience maybe that you would consider very frightful and you didn't feel good about it at all, it doesn't mean another group is that same way at all. It's just like
they can be down to the individual too.
It's right. So, you know, there's a lot to learn. I think since we're dealing with pictures and beings where people keep associating them with being ape, being animal, it's easy to lump everything into one. But, you know, it's not that way at all. These are extremely intelligent, further advanced in some areas than humanity, for some of these groups. And so you really have to, take in this understanding and broaden your mind, because if we don't get past the thought process that if you look similar to an animal, you are sub to humanity, you're not going to be able to handle what's really out there anyway,
No.
because, the look of a human uh, genome is only one of the many things that are out there. And some of these groups are way more advanced than, humanity
Yeah.
currently is on this earth.
And Dogman falls into this category too. It's a wide variety of, excuse me a second. Had an itch there. It's a wide variety of that in the Dogman group. Like what bugged me is I saw somebody made a meme about, forest people, basically describing its height, what it looks like, and then had Dogman next to it, said basically just an asshole on the Dogman side. I'm like, nah, guys, that's unfair to lump them all in that category. Yes, there are several of those that will harass you, absolutely. And I was warned that if Draco went away today or tomorrow, there were groups of dogmen that could easily take their place. And forest people have argued the same about some of their people as well. So you cannot lump. And yes, we're the two mortal enemies at one point. Did the Orions get them to fight? Yes. It doesn't look like it's at that stage anymore. There might be a little unsettled energy, but that's about it. The ones you see fighting are usually the ones that are more on our level, like the ones that do some of the stick structures, the ones that do. I want to differentiate between regular Sasquatch and Anakim lineages. It's like with the Tartarian world unity and us supposed Muggles on the outside. So it's kind of like along those lines. So I'll let him go into this. I know Vitos, I did send you this morning here. And I do apologize to him. I hadn't gone through the photos yet. There was some brain wipe in my head that made it so I didn't go through them by the time we did this. But I have a funny feeling there is something there. If we have a real definitive picture of Vitos or any of his family members and friends and brothers, sisters, if we have that, rest assured I'm going to post it somewhere. So on their Facebook page. Then yes, they have a Facebook page. Look for the World of Sasquatch. So yeah, that's about time. Yes, I know. All right. All right. Give me a second here. Was it about time that I'm letting you speak, or is it about time that I was going to post something? A little from column A, a little from column B. Okay. Ooh, man, pressure on the eyes. Wow. Okay. Yeah, when you get that pressure, that's definitely them. I'm getting it in the eye too a little bit. All right. Okay, through the crystal, Vitos, if you would. Yes, I now have another opportunity to speak in this venue again. So, those of you that have just heard me for the first time, yes, I spoke on your subscription shows a couple of times. I am Vitos, and I actually live out primarily in Sandbridge and gravitate towards the Outer Banks. My clan goes back and forth between those two areas, Sandbridge, Virginia, and Outer Banks, North Carolina. So them being so close, and the beaches are more my thing. You would, if you saw my appearance, you would swear that I was just a hairy beach bum, as it were, beads and all. That's why in his AI generated program, I utilized it for a second, and it can be just as dangerous as a ghost box, by the way, where groups can utilize it. The dwarves did this recently for your GIC programs, where they showed themselves. In this instance, I must, and my group reiterates, these two particular methods of within our realms of thought should not and cannot be used as a method of communications for our people. I myself don't completely mind in limitation, but there are those of us, and you encountered some in outside of Jamestown and Yorktown as well, that completely objected to ghost box usage, that they saw it as an affront. Vorkak, I believe his name was. He's a little pickier about such things. But that group came to me, and we and Fuma and all of us spoke from the groups in Arizona, and there was a mass consensus on the usage of these types of materials to communicate with our people. Photographs are perfectly acceptable by all groups, except those that are a little bit more xenophobic, but we won't go into that. But the the ones that wish to communicate, yes, ghost boxes are good. For, other groups like to use them. Your Isaac and Lane and Vessa like to use it, but we prefer to show ourselves as ourselves. And we have on the AI depictions, but uh, given the rise in artificial intelligence in both the ghost box area and the computer area with the generative programs, it was a vote consensus saying we ask that you not use such things to depict our people. Now, it's based on the individual. His friend Richie had one of dear Ricello. Ricello is entitled to whatever the hell he wants. Um, he wanted Richie to keep that depiction of himself, both themselves, in the picture. Perfectly fine. The Mozen, they use this all the time. Different groups such as that use it all the time. The Untumbans use it all the time. Perfectly fine. We have to insist it not be used for ourselves. And again, I don't completely mind. The Jamestown, Yorktown groups severely mind. They were very, 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 very picky about that because it could create a portal within their pristine territory. And various other groups scattered throughout the East Coast were like, eh. But so this is where this comes in. The reason being, the two technologies are very similar to one another. Say you have a generative algorithm, and even whether or not you tell which direction the algorithm to go is almost irrelevant. Sometimes you have to tell it which direction to go by having a picture, like the dwarves needed a Gimli picture in order to guide the AI to a proper goal. They chose that. Right. And he saw images of dwarves mining jewels and gold and whatnot throughout the images, just like he saw a girl passed on to the afterlife through that. He tried to use a model picture and it showed the person passing on. This is the reason. What does the ghost box do? It can tap in both to AI, alien, and ghostly and spirit sources. It's the same, almost identical type of premise, except one is the generative AI algorithm that can easily be manipulated in a similar fashion to the radio waves in a ghost box. This being said, what else would be trying to come in to mess with those algorithms, just like Isaac did to Fuma in one of them? He played a joke by turning him into one of those symbol monkeys. So, even though Fuma has a sense of humor, no. In this particular way, he objected to this as well. So did Seymour and them. So, that said, the energies that come through, yes, we can wave. The dogmen do the same. They can object or not. They haven't. They're undecided in this area as well. But for the foreseeable future, no products made from AI generative imagery of our people because of the frequencies they hold from non-generative state through the frequencies by which they invert into the picture along with our imagery. There's other things that follow. No, we will help provide imagery of ourselves as a means of bridge building communications back to the good old fashioned photography. Let's just say, even though other beings do appear in that as well, it's kind of similar. And can it draw in things as well if you overdo it, just like the ghost box? Yes. But it does not mean that that cannot be done. That is the safest of all the mediums, is photography doing this. This is why we chose that one. It doesn't mean that it's 100%, but it's a higher percentage than the AI generative algorithm and the ghost box. So this is where my people are at with those things. And this goes into that tree structure category because some people have gone into these territories that these boundaries are in. The X's are boundaries, branches are boundaries, and the upside down trees are markers of territorial, not necessarily just territorial lines, but basically saying this, well, territorial line, an individual can do it or a group can do it, saying, okay, this is a signpost to a particular sanctuary, particular area. My people have done a lot of these, even including in this area alone. There's a lot of these. And people see these upside down trees and think water has mysteriously done this, and that's asinine. I'm just saying that these are boundaries, and tree structures are some that make nests. Remember, there are camper versions of our people, very much like how you guys camp. There are more alien aligned ones, like myself, Fuma, Seymour, and the rest of us, and Parlas and the rest of us. There are some of us that are technologically advanced, some that are both abducted by aliens and also coexist next to aliens. So there are many groups here. The dogmen are the same way. You cannot just lump them in basically just an asshole category, even though we have met plenty. They can come and object or not to that particular statement at some point. So this is where I am at. You can go into questions if you want to.
So again, we've said how there's such a wide range, and you were just saying there's such a wide range of different Sasquatch people, what they like, their abilities, their lifestyles. It really is kind of like, a vast, like humanity. There's really a vastness there. And the ones you call the cousins that may not be further along at all, that actually can be quite violent, that humanity needs to protect themselves from. All of it exists. So I find this an interesting statement, and maybe you can give some general discussion about how the groups choose to live, like housing and different things like that. And my reason behind that is I find it very interesting that having the ability to go in and out of different frequencies, like if we had a piece of land here, like in the forest was right behind us, there could be a community of Sasquatch people living right there that no one can see or anything. So, yes, maybe you have a territorial mark somewhere, but what does your housing look like that nobody is seeing? How are you guys actually living?
Also, one thing you are forgetting, we are not necessarily always keepers of esoteric wisdom either. Neither are the Lyran groups. People have to remember this. You come out to our territory, it is no different than if you walked into a neighborhood. Yes, we might know more on a particular subject. We might be connected to nature more in some areas, fairies too, elementals, beings of that nature. But that varies whether somebody is connected more to spirit in that way and earthly energies, and it varies between person to person. Do not lump all of us in they're angels and quantum angels, and we're the quantum Sasquatch and blah, 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 blah. No, yes, we do go into other frequencies. We've learned an ability that humans have forgotten. Yes, our cousins in that area, yourselves, have forgotten this. But our housing, it's a wide variety of difference as well. Sometimes you see the tree structures, like wigwam looking structures with a nest in them. Sometimes for the most part, live underground in cave structures, or we just walk amongst you and you don't see us. We can walk side by side in the forest area, watching and waiting. Some are sentinels that will guard colonies and communities that are out in the open, like you saw in Ewok Village. Actually, that's more Dogman and like Wookiee or Wauki type, like what you were talking about in a Dogman episode. Brilliant, by the way. That's where Lucas got the idea for the Wookiees and Chewbacca. But he also mimics some of our behavior as well. He claims he never got any of it, but that's BS from us. But that's BS and Dogman. In this, we can have structures that's exactly like you'd see like the Ewok Village, to underground structures. Some are lined with crystals that we can communicate via old ancient technologies, because the Earth was terraformed, you see. He said this on his Halo episode yesterday with Ryan, whereas those basalt pillars are old terraforming that it was stopped in mid-process. You see, where it would come up and terraform a mountainside. You see, it's more like a, how can I say, in more, it is kind of like a buffering mode where it just, like I say, if a computer froze halfway through an operation or something, it's kind of like that. Then it got frozen in place forever, and people saw it as natural. It became as such, which is just fine. There was no harm to nature. But in our our tunnels that we pass through underground. Not only do we have to avoid reptilians from time to time that try to break into our colonies underground from time to time, and in Dogmans, they do the same. They we are It's lined with quartz, lined with if you saw some of our structures that were lit up under the ground in Elements of Agartha, you would see light coming through crystal structures from the surface. Some people have chosen to mimic this in little earthship homes, they call them, where there is a tubule of light or a glass cylinder up top that not only generates heat down through it, but it also generates light into an underground space. This is what the quartz veins do for us. The light might be too low for some humans to tolerate, but eventually in time, people would be able to tolerate it just like we do. We have brightly lit areas, and we also have technologically advanced areas, and some that choose to live as have gone native, let's say. But if you were to cross past an X, what would happen is this happened to somebody that was trying to seek us out. They figured they would go past a marker and build camp. Those particular forest people were upset and began to harass him and were actually quite violent towards him. There was also someone that built a cabin in the woods past one of the markers, a small like shack, like one mini house, and that person was harassed mercilessly because he was looking for proof on our people. Some take violent offense to the seeking of proof. You get the proof when our people are good and ready to communicate, and not before. This is uh, uh, this is why some of our people get irritated at people screaming incoherently in the woods. Others are like, yeah, we'll sit and look at them for a little bit. It just depends on the person and where those people are located within. The barriers, unfortunately, got set up thousands of years ago in a period of history the natives called the Bigfoot Wars, because there was a war between the Sasquatch people and the native peoples. What ended up happening was it was started with a misunderstanding, which most conflicts do. Misinterpretation has happened to the Murr in Alaska with the Inuits, the creepy fish guys that have the bulging green and yellow eyes that they look like they have Graves' disease, which I jest because they have no sense of humor. So that part of that was on them, by the way. They figured they could come up, smile at somebody, and not look creepy. So they look like an oarfish and a tigerfish and a shark put together, and a dragon. So you get where the creepy vibe comes in. So and they can change colors and puff out like one of those Dilophosaurus with the spitting venom and everything. Yeah, I would be creeped by that. But some of them are quite kind. But the point is, a similar misinterpretation was made by Native American peoples about 3,000 years ago, and it spread throughout the United States. There was a war between our peoples and Native peoples, just like the Murr had a war with the Inuits, and just like your military is at war, war-ish with the Myrmidon. It's very similar. Whereas eventually territorial lines were hashed out, the native peoples actually put us on reservations, you see, just like eventually later on what happened to them by the whites and the reptilians, you see. The reptilians and them influenced the natives too in that time, and our people. And that's a very good distinction to make. So not all of us are beyond susceptibility, like an MK altering, like you saw that movie, your Argyle movie, where that person was MK altered. Very similar techniques were made, and to ancient peoples, that is very easy to do because they were very easily scared. Our people then, what happened is we did not want to create war anymore. We agreed to go onto reservations because if we had fought it, the wars would have continued. What happened was eventually the natives, in their genetic memory, saw that this was a similar thing, so they, in some cases, obeyed the white people, but in that and the reptilian governmental body, but at that time, a U.S. government rather. But at that time, then the technique didn't work because the reptilians and the Orions at the time So it said, oh, we'll just take a slightly different turn and just keep oppressing and try to annihilate them since they've already surrendered, which was evil. It was equally as evil in that other time in antiquity. Whereas the symbols were set, this is an X boundary, this is yours, this is mine. Just like before, we could wander wherever we wanted and we were in an equal cohesion. Back in your ancient Celtic world, there were long-headed beings. Some were good, some were not. This is also a distinction. Some were Orion based, some are Tuatha De Danann based, and some try to build people's sovereignty up by saying, okay, this territory is yours, this territory is yours, this is mine, trying to show a system of government. The Orions, then the bad guys came in and basically said, okay, this is a form of dividing have and have not. Okay, you've already taught humans saying what is yours, what is theirs, and now we will show them to covet and hold on to and hoard. This is essentially what also a similar dividing line that took place with the forest people and the natives, where okay, this is your territory, this is ours. Now, there is a good thing to having people's private spaces, no question. That still existed even before the dividing lines. It is an important distinction. A dividing line, a fake line on a map, and that of organic unity, and that of not necessarily forced inclusion, but real inclusion, where we are around one another peacefully. And do you think the Orions wanted this? Do you think Enlil wanted this? No. So this is a brief form of that particular history. 3,000 years later, but also what happened around that time, 3,000 years ago, it was the latter half of the Egyptian Empire, who also allowed that to downfall in that time. That would have been the Osiris clan, that would have been the Isis clan, that would have been remnants of Atlantis, and also remnants of Akhenaten and his unholy brood, and also that of Enlil himself, and who later on in history said that 1,000 years after that, said that he visited the natives as a peacemaker. That would be Enlil, who settled in what's now California, in the territory of the old Nez Perce. Enlil. So that's a bit of the history for you right there, where he was also known as Peacekeeper, the Lemurian king, Peacekeeper. No, not even in the slightest. Tried to integrate himself into all faiths, size, shapes, and colors, including ours, by the way, and we didn't fall for it. At least most of us didn't. So some on Lemuria fell for some of the Orion aristocracy at the time. The fact the last king, the supposed king of Lemuria, like Telnoriscus would say, wasn't all there. That's what he would say about the person. As the guy was dying, he sat in the last throne of Lemuria. It was an inside joke, by the way. The guy died there as Lemuria was being conquered. So yes, some of our people were susceptible then. I know I went on, but that was a bit of the history that went along with the Atlantean Lemurian conflicts of the time and post.
Well, I do have a clarification question that I haven't been able to rectify in my own mind, so I'm hoping simply you can put it, because it kind of is mind warping when we all try to understand the fact that, for example, humans have a limited visual spectrum, vibrate at a certain frequency range, limited visual spectrum, and basically right on top of it is another frequency range that somebody else can clearly see in, right? That Intraverse kind of conversation that we've been trying to have.
Yes.
So I wanted to clarify one thing, because if you're the Sasquatch group in general is living in a frequency that we will soon move into to be able to see it, humanity. But in general, it doesn't seem to me that there's a ton yet of mixing of the frequencies. And although, yes, there are some Sasquatch that are coming into it, or your youth, right, that are experimenting with their own abilities, coming into it or whatever, that in general, there really isn't a ton of mixing that's happening yet. So when you make these X's, and I get what you're saying about the boundaries were made when it sounded like humans had more skill. So it was at a time before humans dropped a little bit more in frequency to no longer see you, because it sounded like during those war times that the natives people had no problem seeing you whatsoever. And then frequencies began to drop and a separation
Just like
occurred.
Poseidon said in the same in his territory, where everybody was around each other, and then one day they were not.
Right. And so again, for him, and again, these separations where everyone used to see each other, everyone used to interact, and then these frequency separations happened for, again, a multitude of different reasons that these things begin to occur. So my curiosity is, with some of these boundary structures and whatever that humans can plainly see, were they actually, some of them literally put there for humans still, or is it just something that is nature and is crossing multiple frequencies? Who originally are these boundary markers for?
Boundaries markers were basically not only for other clans of our own people to recognize, but other humans that humans forgot. And some of our own people did as well, not many, but humans mostly forgot, just like they forgot they came from space originally, like your movie 65 pointed out. So, and he uses that as a reference quite often, which is very accurate, where people just forgot where they came from. There's more to it than that, mind you, with the different frequencies, as you say. But even if you are in a different frequency, sometimes you can still be seen. Some people can see into the different spectrums and regain that genetic memory, you see, to see into the different spectrums, as he does, see. But then with some of the poisoning you have now, and some of the frequency differentials you have now, especially at the shattering of the Bifrost and everything took place, it sent the Earth into a chaotic spin, no pun intended. There's a lot of propaganda out there about different frequency differentials. I do want to point out some misnomers, saying that it is all this way. No, sometimes the beings are underground portraying themselves as different frequencies. The introverse, you bet they are different frequencies. Ourselves, we can shift with merely a sound pitch, and you could see us, but you would have a difficult time standing near us if we were matching frequencies, because your cells have, how can I put this, forgotten, not necessarily forgotten, wrong choice of words, they have not tapped into a particular frequency in a very, very long time. We were actually slightly reverted back when, in the times of Enlil, when he took certain genetic liberties with your people and the Lyrans and our people and several others, and others added their own genomes and whatnot. What was taken was also dialing the clock back slightly, meaning before a certain threshold had been met. Some people call this carbon-based to diamond-based or crystalline-based. I do have to slightly object to that referencing, because the crystalline-based only refers to, at least from what I see, only refers to when the remains decay. Just like a Titan, when they die, they turn to stone. Some of our people kind of do this. We're related to Titans, just like some entombments that die. They form a crystal, just like your caretaker in your Star Trek Voyager, where it was a sporicystine life form, or whatever they call it, where it turned into a crystal cluster. Doesn't mean that your DNA is suddenly made of faceted crystals and you're shining like a diamond. No. The reason the elves had that happen is because of their particular frequency. They didn't have diamond, they weren't covered in diamonds or anything like that. They shined because of the particular energetic aura. Just like your Tolkien said, they came from an era of Earth that everything shined like that. Everything shined. Everything was like that. And they also exist in a particular part of the Intraverse, like they're, what the Irish call Tir na Nog, or the Undying Lands, according to Tolkien. That place glimmers and shimmers and shines. It's an energy frequency thing. It had something to do with genetics, but it doesn't mean that there's suddenly glitter shining like your the Twilight vampires. No, 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 no. Nobody does this. Nobody's made of glitter. Well, maybe some aliens out there look like they are, but those are slightly weird. But humans will consider them slightly weird, and they kind of smell funny. But But in this particular way, I know they can hear me, so because people in the Intraverse can actually hear. And this leads me to Intraverse. He is not wrong when he says 95 to 99% of all channelings out there are Intraverse related. Some of our people traveled into the Intraverse. Those worlds were always used, they always used to be accessed by everybody here in the times of Asgard, even in later periods. Some of those were not, most of those were not closed off. But in the times of the whole conjunction of the spheres, like what was said in The Witcher, it was like some things were chaotic or some things bled through. But Earth is a nexus and a multiversal hub, an intraversal hub and dimensional hub. So what happened? People came and went for millions of years. People came and went from this area quite often, I might add. Odin was around for most of it, but there was some times where he wasn't. And he had people before him, which he doesn't like to admit there were anything before him. But yes, him and his family became very prominent. As you know, we've met a few of them, and they are right. It is an acquired taste, but we get along, and the Untomans get along with them and us and everybody, and other dogman groups and everybody. But the introverse conversation, there are these spheres within spheres that you are getting a lot of these messages from. Agartha is another one where they're projecting through the crystal quartz network, and they have a piece of technology on their head, whether they know how to create it again or not. Like your Joe Rogan said, would you know how to invent a cell phone? This is exactly how some of those groups are. They have forgotten, but they still use the old equipment. You saw this on Star Trek where they'd run into a civilization that had a previous, more advanced civilization, and they thought the other things were either magic or they just wouldn't have known how to build them anymore. This is what happened now. You see, you're seeing old technology, old stone tech. You wouldn't know how to build it again. You did once. All of us did. And that day will come again. But those resources are very, very finite, even in the galaxy. The Introverse, though, and Agartha are actively involved in your channeling community. And I do wish to point out one thing. I will not name names other than what I have, because I'm being told don't. Even though he likes to froth some names in the mouth, I'm not going to do that. Some of your quantum Sasquatch, not just books, but also gatherings. There's a particular area I want to get into. It's where people gather in the name of Sasquatch, which is great. We actually, yes, do we like the attention? Yes, we do. But there are also some vendors are pointing out that they are angels there to save people. They are hairy fairies, which that's probably not too far from the truth. Fae and Titan and human, and yeah, okay, in galactic. But in this also, they are actually purporting to, some of them are purporting to talk to our people, when in fact they are not. And there are also negative Sasquatch that worm their way in there to purport their own agenda. Face eater and baboon races aside, there are good and bad of those. You met one by the name of Free Talk, which was decent, but in that community, they're talking to a scattering of different beings. How can I be kind? Most of which are not us. Our group, we can account for our actions. We can't account for some of these other groups. And this is an important distinction. Some of them may even be forest people, but what clan do they herald from? What intentions do they have? Also, some of them don't like humans because of the bad blood of the old wars. Some of them don't like humans because humans destroy the environment. They cut down trees. They damage the earth. And other groups are like that, like your Mer. They get butthurt over pollution, which they should, but sometimes they're unfair to other humans that would not have treated the earth as such. But it's an important distinction. There are many clans, many intentions, many ability levels, but can all the groups kind of cohesively use sound, pitching, and tone to traverse frequencies? Yes and no. There are some like you that have forgotten. There are the younger groups that are still traveling different frequencies but don't have the same range as, say, the Anakam lineages. So there is a wide variety of different renditions of ourselves, just like there's a wide variety of renditions of yourselves. Are all of you good intentioned? No. If you were, we wouldn't have to have this conversation this way. We would be talking, yes? Your military hunts us relentlessly, no matter what clan. And there's different clans of them that some protect us, some fight with us, and some hunt us. It's no different with our own people.
So, again, I really am glad we're speaking on this because again of how, and I don't know what you feel about, so I'm just going to ask, how do you feel about the TV shows out there that are trying to either prove the existence of or hunt or whatever it is that they're actually doing? We don't really watch a lot of it,
Yes.
but what is your thoughts on that?
Some groups, and I must say that some of it is narrative that you're seeing, of course, for television. Aside from that, some of our people love to mess with some of these groups. Some are being very genuine in contact. Some don't mind if some idiot's screaming out in the woods, but most of the forest people have a consensus is if you're screaming out in the woods, that is considered an insult. Just like if you went at a cat, they'd scratch your eyes out. It is kind of like that. Like if you run across a particular person that their voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard. This is how we view the out in the woods. Do we do that to each other to get attention sometimes? Yes, it depends on the clan, actually. Tree knocking, most of the forest people do the tree knocking, and some do the whoop and do stuff like that. It depends on the clan. Say if you went into a territory where you know there are forest people, you don't know what clan affiliation that is. You don't know what banner, quote unquote. They don't exactly have flags, but you get the idea. And it's not by race sometimes either. Sometimes there are clans, or there's clans with different clan leaders, and like Sufas was Fuma's and Seamar's family. You have one by the name of Nick Nick. He is in or Nick Tick. He is in the middle of the country, and he has like governing bodies. Say if you had a Sasquatch group like BFRO or some other non-aligned group goes into the area, starts playing recordings of some of our people screaming in the woods, and they start screaming in the woods. And then you had some forest people stand there, just sit there chuckling. That happens. That's why sometimes they hear on recordings and stuff because of the fact that some of them are just laughing at them. They don't have any interest in communication beyond that. There are some, it's just like he witnessed when he went to the Alamo one time with his father. There was a paranormal group out there where people are taught to provoke ghosts and provoke spirit and energies and elementals, which is very disrespectful. Some of our groups see that as an insult and disrespectful. And there is a variety of plethora and swath of reactions that you get. Just like some of you would be very easygoing, like, mm-hmm. And other ones would not tolerate it and start throwing rocks. This is the wide variety, just like you have passive and passive aggressive. Some of our people have done this as well, like, okay, whatever, I'll leave a goat head, but whatever, you know, stuff like that. And that's usually a warning to get the hell out of there, by the way. If you see a bloodied head on a stick, that's usually a clue, Sherlock, to get out of there. Some are barbaric like that, but then you have the other ones hurling boulders the size of a car. So, no, I would say absolutely not on that. So it is a wide variety of things that are happening. Yeah, and some participate. Some want to actively communicate, like ourselves. So it's just depends who and what you run into. They're going off of stories where some of our people are sighted, and they're going into territory. Sometimes they step into a colony area, and you have a sentinel that is very pissed off because there are people there with cameras screaming out in the wood, and it's actually scaring the crap out of some of but in the colony, because if they're discovered by a regular human just wanting to go, oh, I want to see this, sometimes the military is not far behind them, and they're utilizing them as meat puppets to try to find us. That has happened on a multitude of different times and places, and the paranormal groups have done the same, unknowing. The people don't really know they're being used as meat puppets. Some of my people aren't always as forgiving. It's like with him, he sometimes sees people, he sees the programming as no excuse. Other days, it's like he's more passive. That's how some of my people are as well. It's my people run the gambit in moods. Fuma, me, and others are more on the analog spectrum, where we wish to keep a calm. We wish to keep a peace. We wish to have a cohesive unity, not forced inclusivity, but a communication, a bridge. Others will go about a different way and just sometimes get annoyed and pee on someone's tent. Well, that's more of an asshole move. But there was also a Survivor Man episode, a Les Stroud episode that he saw, where he said he had a dream of a Sasquatch that was sitting on him laughing. Yes, my people do that from time to time and sit on people and fart and do all that other stuff like some of your frat houses would do. Yes, if you could be unseen, what would you do, kind of thing. And he caught a picture of one that was partially blurred after he put an apple on the top of the tree. And not all of us eat apples, by the way. Do you? Not all of us eat donuts, do you? But some of us do get addicted to the sugars. It is very dangerous. It's like when that person left Kroger donuts out, and some of my people got addicted, and it hurts our genome slightly more than yours. And it becomes very addicted, more like heroin has an instant withdrawal if you go off it, kind of thing. And they had to be weaned off of by creating different sugars because they became different natural sugars because they became violent. And that's what happened to your people. Even a child you've been around recently with certain sugars becomes violent. That happens to our people. That's usually a clue of who has certain coatings to our people, and also some elven coatings as well. Violent reactions to the white powdered refined sugar. It's essentially an addictive drug, just like they used to put crack in McDonald's fries. You're going to find something else out about that sugar you're going to be very disgusted about in years to come. It affects our people even worse than it affects yours.
Well, that's very interesting. So I find it interesting, and I always go back a little bit since you brought it in the Intraverse and what people are actually really talking to. So I guess, when this information kind of came out, I wasn't so, let's just say, I think some people would be like, I'm channeling something different. Well, you are channeling something different. You absolutely are. No one's arguing about that. And are you having an experience and is something coming through? No one's challenging that statement.
No one's doing it.
No, it's just an understanding of, again, I think a lot of people felt that the earth and where it sat, there was something to it. And what it seems to be is getting a little bit more detail as to really what it is and where it sits, because not every planet sits on this kind of nexus point where people can come and go like they do through this place where this earth happens
and
to
some
sit.
beings have a non-corporeal form that when they come here, they have a weird and creepy form. Your Slender Man is a great example of that eventually became more of a tulpa form. We discussed that on a conspiracy sector episode. Yes, those are great examples where he always uses the Farscape example where Crichton's father, or an alien took the form of Crichton's father, but he passed through a dimensional space where he was incorporeal in one place and now corporeal in the next. And the physics that bind your dimension made him look like a Muppet, which Jim Henson, yes, Muppet. But I'm just saying he looked weird. This is what I'm also saying about those people with the speckles and the glitter. It's the same thing.
Right.
They come through, they look like they're covered in glitter and they shine and they look like they have weird multiple eyes. In their dimension, they don't look like that. Just like your first wave show, the enemy aliens that weren't called the Gua, when they entered from their dimensional state or from their dimensional planet, they had a planet out in space. They passed through a certain dimensional space. They entered into the human body, and they took a particular shape in your dimension. It's the same example. Yes.
Exactly. So I think, some of the things that we try to bring through is, I guess I call them the additional onion layers of information, a little bit more detailed, because people are picking up on things and having experiences that, yes, there is truth to what is going on with you in your life, but we only have a perspective of trying to put it together what's going on with the information that has come into us to this point. And so now trying to understand more that people's feeling that something was different about this earth than, other places, something a little bit more different going on. Absolutely true. Now, again, we're not saying that is the only experiences human will be having later, because there is a galaxy and worlds upon worlds out there with different beings. It's just saying that, this is where we are. We're learning about what is going on around our Earth, the intraverse related to our Earth, how communication is happening from one place to another there. And then once that is understood, then an expansion will occur even more, and more people will be able to, I'm just going to use the word discern something. I know local isn't the right word, but I don't know the right word. More localized to this experience versus this is way out there.
Local is actually a great word. This is why Valiant Thor admitted that he was local, but he's solar system. So yeah, you're going to find out that a lot of these councils people are channeling either bad guys, AI, Intraverse, or some asshole underground. So you're going to find out a lot of this.
And so, since you said asshole underground, that's kind of where I was going, because again, the different agendas as to
military too.
Right. And the different agendas as to going on as to why, again, you'd be scared to death probably if somebody tried to throw up on you all the realities that were out there. You couldn't handle it. You have to start somewhere. You normally try to start with where a current person's belief system is and then try to expand it. Not to call you stupid, but it's hard to bring all of this information in. And so, but within that, in my humble opinion, from what that experiences that we've had, is that it is a mix still. You have a mix of actually benevolence that is within the realm of your understanding, trying to help you expand. Good thing. You also have those that somehow I believe there's an alignment there with certain groups that are all about tamping down humans' abilities to expand. They're really trying to control it. Some really only want a story to come out in a certain way so they still can control it. So I wanted your opinion on all of those kind of dynamics and what people are actually experiencing.
Yes, this is actually great that this is opened up. We did segue it a little bit, but the Intraverse, for instance, if you went to one of these other worlds, you would swear that you traveled to another planet, sometimes even with a different star pattern, but you're still within a dimensional space that looks at the universe maybe even slightly differently or exactly the same. You might be even seeing the same sun, the same stars, but it's never the same moon. Moon's only on Midgard, the middle ground, guarding the middle ground. So in this, say if you were to walk to say Elena Vessa's world, you would see like a desert area, like in this, it would be shaped like the state, like the United States, state of Nevada, and it would look exactly like how the state of Nevada looks without people's like cities and homes there, except for the ones they have there. And it is not a parallel universe; it's the one right here with you. The multiverse plays a humongous role too, but I won't get into that. That would be more of an infinite conversation. No pun intended. Well, pun intended a little bit. But in that, you would look up, you would see even a cleaner environment, cleaner air, and the people there age slower because there's no toxins completely. And if they were to come here, which they have to wear equipment like how you would have a hazmat suit, but they wear jewelry or a ring, like how the Untomans wear their suit, or like he says the character of Kosh did in Babylon 5 with the encounter suit when he said too many people saw me when he took off his encounter suit, that he got entangled and he had to meditate and rest when he tried to save the character of Sheridan. It's the same thing. The Untomans have their suits. Like if you have less toxins, they can take the masks off and stuff like that, like he encountered with his friend Richie with the Untoman. If you went there, you would notice that they live less or live more lives. Like your Elaine and Vessa have, they look like they're 20s, but they're in their 60s. So, and there's a time differential too, as well between here and there, but it's only slight. Depending on the time of year, it drifts further apart or drifts closer together as the hour differentials. Just like you have the planetary alignments change, and the Earth and the Sun have a different relationship throughout the year. It's the same kind of thing. It's the Intraverse has the same kind of thing. The alignment of the spheres or the conjunction of the spheres, like in Witcher, there are rare opportunities where they all align. And some of those worlds you can't access, even from other parts of the Intraverse. Some are forbidden, like what was said on GIC. Some are just graveyards. Some are gardens. Some are stuck in the last fight that they were in. Not meaning that they're time frozen, it's just that there's remains there, and people leave those worlds alone. From the last wars that took place, Ryan and other battles that took place that you have no name for. But you would go there. They have their jobs, they have their workplaces, they have their homes. They don't have necessarily bills per se. It is more like they work when the need arises. Some people would call it Marxist, but there's also capitalism there. Humans that traveled here from Midgard to there made sure there was capitalism there as well. So they had some balance between socialism and capitalism, Marxism and capitalism, which is good. But I'm just saying these people are no different than yourselves. And some of the worlds that your Isaac was talking about in the solar system, the many worlds of the solar system, those are actually introverts. So he wasn't completely wrong. It's just that you guys would not have comprehended introverts at the time. If you went to some of these places, some of the governments of those worlds would be quite uppity that you were there. If you two went to, say, Elaine and Vess's world, Verer, their governmental bodies, as if they discovered you right away. If you went to the portal, there are guards there. They would escort you to a governmental building or to what you would see as like a police station or a federal building. It's kind of the same thing. And you would have to wait and see if there were toxins. You would have to be adjusted to that frequency, because if you stayed in it too long without protection, your brain would cave in from the toxins fighting that frequency that's there. It's not necessarily 5D. That's not an actual thing. It's just a faster moving frequency. That's why if the Elaine and Vess are around, you see them as more kind of ghostly than anything else, projecting from that space. That, and they can use the devices that you used, and we do as well. They would take you to a place, and you would have the choice whether you wanted to stay or leave. If you say leave, they wipe your memory and send you on your way right away, immediately through the portal. If you want to stay, which people have made that choice because it's more peaceful there, and they can escape their bills and their daily life, and it's more interesting from their perspective anyway. From people that live there, it's just life. Just like if you went to a foreign country and you're like, wow, this is awesome, but the locals are like, and it's kind of like that. So they would give you the choice to stay or go. It is not as free flowing as what was previously said, but people have fallen through the cracks periodically and gone into the introverse and other universes too. The multiverse plays this humongous role in all of this. And even in channelings, the introverse, some elements of the multiverse, it could be you looking at you, talking about you. And it could be another you from another version of the timelines there. That's a completely different conversation. That's the Yggdrasil tree conversation that Isaac did on GIC with the like that you saw in the Loki series. It's like that, nearly exact, with the branches and the roots. But the introverse is actually where Anagartha and your military and agenda and other galactics, I will say, the remaining 2 to 5%, if you looked at that in the galaxy, that is a lot of people. So, but you don't know what agenda they have. You don't know what agenda the GF has. You don't know what agenda some pirates might have. You don't know what they could be aligning and with a political belief you have and saying, yeah, sure, and they're really making fun of you. You don't know. So you can't take their word as sacrosanct. In the Intraverse, there are worlds aligned with darkness that are there, that have been for a long time. The one thing I do want to get out, you recently saw a show out there that had to do with Neanderthals. And this intersects the Intraverse and a Garthan conversation, because the point was made was the host said that eventually Neanderthals became us. I have to fervently object to that. That's a lumping conversation where that is only one or two isolated groups. And are they cousins? Yes. But again, they're like what he said. They're like the orcs on Lord of the Rings, and these are underground, like you saw in Lord of the Rings, where the orcs went into the deep, like well, the dwarves of Moria mine far, far and far down and found demons, which would be reptilian, like the Balrog and stuff like that. That's Draco, or Archdemon, which would be like the Hyper Draco dimensional shit. And then you have these orc type beings, which are Neanderthal, that are cannibalistic. Where he said, "Yeah, you get it's a fear of the dark that comes from there." The aliens play off of this, but it does come from some of that running from these creatures. They came from a different age of Earth where there were so many other experiments going on in so many different ways, millions of years ago. And some went into the Intraverse and fell into complete degrading cannibalism. And others still remain in the Midgard to this day underground and do abduct people and eat people. Face eaters are slightly related to them. They follow some of the same practices, but it's the aliens again regressing them into a barbarism. But the ones that were particularly spoken about, yes, people hid from them in the same place that Noah's Ark took place, the Paleolithic structures that came before the flood times. That did happen, and they were told any dreams people have of running from something and sealing a door, they're getting past lives of that, or seeing shadows from around the corner, or a fear of the dark that the aliens are playing off of. That's definitely where it comes from. But they are equating it to forest people. No, we're a different lineage, but we are related because even though some of us came from space, a lot of the hominid races did interact. But that particular barbaric race in the Intraverse and in Agartha will grab people and abduct people in the underground, but also they will try the ones that are more telepathically inclined, that evolve differently in the Intraverse, will send messages from time to time. You see these as ghouls. Some of the carrion eaters, as he calls them, the death cleanup crew. Where do you think they came from? Neanderthal. The ghoulish cloud-like ones, the incorporeal-like ones, the ones with the weird teeth and the piggish looks. He's been seeing these pig-like ones lately. Who do you think they are? Neanderthal. This might be hard to believe because they look incorporeal. But would you not look incorporeal to if you were projecting from a different space? Your insiders like to say, "Oh, ghouls came from the outer rim." The outer rim of where, I might add. But some are underground projecting, some are reptilian. Of course, you have the Draco screwing around from both Mars and down here, and you have Neanderthals. These guys are about as close to the Draco as you can get in a human-like shell. And is there a reptilian there? Yeah, a little bit, but just like with yourselves. But they have this pig-like Gamorrean guard-like appearance, an Orcai appearance, like you see the Gamorrean guards from Star Wars, but not green. Uh, if they had more reptilian, I'm like an Osiris-looking thing. But anyway, this we wanted to make the distinction because this is also where some of the negative garbages come from, and they do eat the bones of the dead, I might add. This is where he's getting the ghoul stories from. These are variants and variations of orc-like beings, Neanderthal, Paleolithic, degraded hominids, just like you have your Grimpa, which also have the degraded Puckwuddies. You have elves of Greenland, and you have the Falmer, like Elder Scroll Falmer type elves that exist in Iceland that abduct people, very much like these other groups do. Like the woman that was found naked with tattoos and said elves abducted her. That was an asshole group that tormented her for 7 or 8 years. So this is what goes on in these different rooms. I know I diverted a little bit, but this is where you're getting some of this from.
Well, and that was leading to my question. So again, people have to discern, but let's turn it to now you guys, because they exist. All of this types of channeling exists. How does it influence people in your clans? I mean, they're not just aiming at us. I can't imagine some of them aren't aiming at also some of the clans that may not be as far ahead in their discernment. They've kind of backtracked a little bit. So how does all of that affect you guys and your groups?
Well, also the dream you had of the heartbeat through the back of your chest.
Yes.
That is a ghoul hunter. He calls them ghouls. That's because they can sense the heartbeat. What do you think hunter in the dark corners of the woods would do? They could smell blood. They could sense the heartbeat. They hunted. They hunted their prey like that. But they also cleaned up the bones of the dead. He calls them the cleanup crew. Yeah, I'll go with that, being part of nature. There are other groups that see these things going on. They grow tired of it, but they know the Intraverse, Multiverse, and Earth Midgard have balance, just like maggots eat a corpse, kind of thing. They're like, okay, these guys are necessary on some level, but if they bleed into other groups and start harassing everybody else and saber rattling, no, there are groups that do not tolerate that shit. So just know that all ghoul category is Neanderthal. There are harassing Sasquatch. There are some that get tired of human noise, kind of like the whole Enlil story in the flood. They get tired of the babbling thoughts and the babbling, but they know it's mind control, but they still get worn down. And then these other groups take advantage of that. Our group, my particular one, we care a great deal that these things are happening. Fuma's group cares a great deal that these things are happening. He, like Fuma in particular, saw his mind babbling because of the SSP type of stuff. Normally, he's concerned for mental health of yourselves, himself in particular. Also, our group is the same way. We've watched over you guys since you've gotten here. Fuma asked that we do the same, and Seymour asked that we do the same. But we also contend with these other dimensional groups and dimensional spaces. We try to prevent some channeling to take place, but if somebody is really locked into something, there's not much we can really do. Like when you go to events, for instance, if somebody's bringing in a particular group, and say you bring us in, and if we can't contend with that group, we won't hang around. We won't stay around. And as no insult intended, they may have actually more power than we do. So, like say a particular ancient ET group or Intraverse group or something like that, they may have more power than we do. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't back down from a fight, but we're not going to allow ourselves to be slaughtered either. Like if the Neanderthals surface, for instance, they actually outnumber us. Thankfully, they are confined to the depths in some areas, along with some of the reptilians and into the introverse. We managed to confine different areas of the depths and different areas of the introverse and lock the doors. So what do? They project from those different spaces to try to get people to walk into holes and walk into caves and walk into areas where they would be eaten, like any hunter, just like your Draco in the Superstition Mountains. They have a Draco nursery there. They whistle to people to say, hey, we have gold over here. And they grab people. Not that there isn't gold there. I'm just saying the natives actually possess 9/10 of it, but the Apache do. I'm just saying that a lot of these different parties, ourselves included, we do channel to people and give people information. If we have that esoteric knowledge, we share it. If we have earthly knowledge, like what I'm doing, we share it. Or I share it. But there are those groups that plain just want to give the incorrect information to people. They just want to lie. And they want to take people down a garden path saying, these people can't discern, and there are other groups that do that too. Like they'll sit back and go, and that happens. Just like your cabal does this. They're not helping matters any, but it happens a lot. And it happens from both the introverse and Agartha alike and other frequencies that are around you. There are beings that do this quite regularly. They will side people in political struggles. They will some of the fairy groups will side people just because they might even have a bit of esoteric knowledge they want to hear, or they think they're good, or they align with nature or something, and they are not genuine. But yet, then those you've experienced this where fairies will attack the other party when they think the other one that they like has been wrong. They've taken people's sides for centuries. Our people have done something similar. People call us hairy fairies because of it. I slightly object. I'm not pink, but pink or blue. And Isaac can stop laughing at that one. But even though I do wear beads and I'm more like of a hippie look, you had your Fjorgi that were very similar, that had like a space hippie type look. I will add, some of those boots constellation people aren't what they seem either. The introverts, by the way. Uh, there's a lot of the boots and Arcturus channelings right here from Intraverse. And also, you've seen on some of your programs, YouTube, Gaia, any of those, where people talk about, and you've seen on Y Files and all those things, where people talked about aliens that have come and taken them instantly to another world. You got to emphasize the word world refers to the introverse and dimensional spaces. Planet refers to like Earth. It's a shoe in or a portal to the introverse. This is how the nine realms were: worlds, planets. You have the nine planets, which was depicted as the nine realms, but then those were shoe-ins, including also you have Asgard in there that went into a dimensional space. There are portals to these dimensional spaces everywhere. That being said, just like with your smiling man, your injured cold conversation, for instance, that we all spoke about before, that ship, that man that actually saw this, didn't depict it all completely. He added a lot, embellished some stuff, but at the same time, your Elaine and Vessa also used some elements of that story, which they were correct about 9/10 of it, but there were some embellishments in there too. What happened is he went to another world, saw a different sky pattern, and assumed he was on a different planet. No, this is how the introverse in these dimensional spaces look. Your visual cortex, your neocortex, is a wonderful tool, but the decoding and encoding of an environment, you base it on the physics you are used to. You are used to a blue sky above you. You are used to green grass beneath you, or sand, or cactus, or trees, or what have you. And yes, a lot of those worlds have the same thing, but there are some, just like with Q and Janeway, where he said, you're seeing the Civil War. Because we're having a Civil War, your brain decoded it to the American Civil War, but it actually doesn't look this way. Your brain can't comprehend what the continuum looks like. Some of those spaces are that way, and people are imprinting that. This is why in Marvel you had universal incursions, because people would automatically into other universes. It's not that fragile, mind you, as in Marvel, but if you went in, you would try to encode a certain way and have to adapt to another universe if it was slightly different. The Intraverse is no different, where somebody saw an alien culture, or what they thought was an alien culture, but it was from right here. That's why some of these beings can come and go so damn fast. That and your military's pulling out stagecraft. But multiverse, introverse, they're right here. It's all the one big nexus knot. And this is why when aliens do come here, they crash sometimes because they can't handle the highways and causeways. There's a lot more I could go into, but I know you don't want to go on all day, but just know that 9/10 of what you're dealing with is homegrown.
Okay, so again, you're right. We're getting kind of into time here. What last words would you like to say for this show?
Yeah, this has been a fascinating conversation. Just know that over the years, the many beings that all of you have interacted with, the whole family has interacted with, there have been liars, there have been cheaters, there have been ones that had their own agenda, wanted to experiment to see if you could discern, or lie until you knew they were lying, and then they tell you the truth. Poseidon does this, and he's known for this in history. That's why the Sumerians called Enki the god of deception and god of lies, because of that. But it doesn't mean he's always that way. Acquired taste, you know. And well, yes, yeah, he claimed a couple, well, if not all the religions. But in this, though, of these beings that you've encountered, I must say the list isn't as big as you think it is. There's a padded list where some beings will actually flip their name and say they're from somewhere else. You have beings out there, and I will peg something that happened on earlier GICs because I know he was in a hurry to be able to get somebody in those days. Any of them that you're getting from, say, Beta and Alpha Centauri, for instance, these are major culprits that will, I'm not saying they're evil, but they are saying they're from outside. These are multiverse and introverse related, mostly multiverse. And because you heard stories of, this spot in Chile being the landing place in the future and blah, blah, blah. for some of these people from Alpha Centauri, and these are other human types. These are multiverse. And some moved into the intraverse. These are multiverse. This was just another set of circumstances by which humans evolved. And they said, yeah, we're from Alpha Centauri because you wouldn't be able to handle, some people wouldn't be able to handle, oh, this is just you. Another aspect of Oversoul. Some people can't handle alien. How are they going to look in the mirror and say, that's me somewhere else? So some of these beings will say they're alien when they're not. A Beta and Alpha Centauri, yes. You had another group called the Nictic that came through. Kind. You had one by the name of Torgon that came through. I'm not saying they're not kind. I'm just saying they're not from Beta Centauri. So they are multiverse. And so they are a version of humanity that evolved to have aqua colored skin, and they're bald. But they are not reptilian, they're not amphibian. They are, I'm going to say, galactic primate-ish, like yourselves, with some of that DNA in our cousins and stuff like that. They're different, just like you saw in the movie Quantumania when you saw He Who Remains. Some of him looked alien, most of him looked human, but some of them had green skin, blue skin, stuff like that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about right there. That's another version of humanity, just like Orion. He was the same identical thing. Just when the Bureau popped out from their spot in the multiverse, the other end of the quantum causeway from here to there was around the belt of Orion. It was a quantum entanglement. That's the only reason they're called Orions. They are from the multiverse. So I'm just saying a majority of who you're talking to here. So that's the point that we also wanted to make as well. So I thank you for this opportunity. And as Fuma likes to say, always. And we do allow photographs within reason, but don't always expect it as a thing. Like, I'm expecting you to get this. Yeah, we like your enthusiasm, but it's a choice of whomever, the Force person or a group of Force people that are around. So thank you. Whether you get anything or not, rather, I should say. Oh. Ooh. Yeah. Well, starting to get ashy. But that's why he was cutting it, because there was pain starting to pop up and stuff like that. See, the bones and the muscles start to feel really weird after a while. Oh, we have gone a while, haven't we? But yeah, he was correct. There are other seers out there. Oh, you're telling me not to mention names. Got it. Okay. That he mentioned things because we've already cross-referenced them. Uh, that name dropping isn't always good, but citing sources is good because we've already started to talk about references. Because there's a difference between citing a source and name dropping.
Again, because it's so I've always said, because it's a lot more complicated than people think.
And you don't want to get caught up in some disinformation spiel either. So, yeah.
And we don't want to get caught up on downplaying someone else's experience. They are having an
They're having a genuine experience. It's just from what? That is what needs to be. They need to ask and not just trust. I was the same way at one point, but then I began to really open my eyes up to that a lot of this is homegrown. And I'm accepting of that, that I had that part wrong. That's where I started off, that it was galactic. But as he was saying, I've said this too, even if you have 95 to 99% intraverse, Agarthan, earthly related, Midgard, and other dimensional space related, multiverse related, what's that other 2 to 5%? That's a whole 2 to 5% of a whole galaxy, or 2 galaxies. That's a lot of people still. So that's like, it may seem like that's a low number, but if you went out there and you saw 2% of a galaxy, that's a ton of people. So yeah, you're still getting channels from there, but of what? You have to question. And yes, I did trust the Nictic, but they said they were Beta Centauri. And then also another group said they were Alpha Centauri. These are just versions of humanity in the multiverse. And the Quantumania reference he was making, you saw Jonathan Majors' character at the end of a ton of him in the after credits scene, a ton of them. When they said, how many of you did you summon? All of them. And that's what Jonathan Majors' character of He Who Remains, or Kang, did. And you saw some of them that looked like they had blue skin, silver skin, and so a lot of them looked like the guy, but then there were a few in there that looked like alien. That's what the reference that he was making. But they're still us. So that I know it's a tough pill for people to swallow, but it's us looking at us. Like we always said on GIC, it's you looking at you. It's other aspects of the multiverse now all showing themselves in that respect. And Alpha Centauri, there were Nordics from Alpha Centauri. Aside from the Orion Nordics, there's some, again, parallel universe, parallel timelines. Look into these things. I can't go into it. It's too, maybe it's a show in and of itself on lifting sometime or GIC. That may be a question for a different time. But just know that's what he was referring to. That's citing a source right there. There's a little bit of that on Gaia, but there's some on the internet about that too. So gotta watch what you're channeling, folks. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I hope this was found to be interesting to you guys, and we will talk again.
Yes, and I now close this circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your support on GIC, on the lifting, and on the world of Sasquatch. So bye-bye now.